Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing Monday with the Watertown Oswego SBDC. I'm Nicole, friend of the SBDC, joined by Liz, the executive director of the SBDC. I always forget
Regional director.
Oh,
Yes.
whoa, whoa, sorry. Didn't
Come
mean
on.
to. Yeah, I got to get with the program here.
Properly impressive here.
I know,
Yes.
absolutely. So, Liz, can you tell us a little bit? I know you got a ton going on, so let's talk a little bit about that before we get started on today's topic.
Absolutely. So yes, we do have a ton going on. So this Wednesday, that would be the 6th of April, we on Facebook Live at noon on the Watertown Oswego Facebook page. We'll have the second to last of our safety series, which is bloodborne pathogens. I know you're all dying to know about them. And, the thing about safety is it may not be the most interesting, but it is essential. And Kurt Callahan, our consultant, does a great job bringing it to life using real life examples. So I encourage you to check it out at Facebook Live at 12 noon on Wednesday, and also our YouTube channel, Watertown Oswego SBDC. All of a bunch of Kurt stuff is archived, and all of our Marketing Mondays are archived. And the second thing we have going on, and I'm going in chronological order here, Nicole, is there's a Serve Safe designation workshop on Saturday, the 16th of April. And that is put on by our host institution, Jefferson Community College, and their workforce development division. And this is a New York State requirement, or nice to have for food establishments. And if anybody who's an SBDC client or who wants to become one wants to send someone to this, we're paying the entire tuition out of our CARES Act funding. So it's almost $300. You get the certification, you get the textbook, and you get the experience of being taught by JCC faculty who is an expert in this. So if anybody's inclined to get one of their employees or a few of their employees certified, you can give us a call, shoot us an email. We're happy to do that. And the final thing is our entrepreneurial skills class, which we've actually renamed, and I can never remember the name of it, but it is. Because entrepreneurial, I'm too lazy to type it out every time. And that's just full disclosure, Nicole and everyone. And yes, I know. What a terrible thing to admit, but it's true, because I always spell it wrong. So the Small Business Development Workshop, it's a 7-session series, starts on Tuesday, the 19th. It's at 5:30 to 7-ish p.m. via Zoom, but we will be recording it. So anybody who signs up can have access to those recordings, and we'd be happy to have you join us. We're covering everything from the basics of business, accounting, marketing, commercial real estate, and we're really excited because we have a new class this time. It's kind of the capstone, and we do a lot of work on this broadcast and other places with the hard skills. Go check your Google My Business numbers and go look at your stats. But that last class is about the kind of soft skills, on what it really takes to open a business and become an entrepreneur. And it's being taught by two of our advisors. One is Erica Davis, who you usually see here on Mondays, but she's a little under the weather today. But she's owned a bookstore cafe for over a decade, and is currently also self-employed. And Mike Kinney, who's our new business advisor here in Watertown, who, if anybody's been kicking around for a while, he's owned a few businesses, currently owns 2 bookstores, he and his wife, one in Clayton, one here in Watertown. And he also owned the Comedy Club in Sackett. So these are 2 voices of experience talking to you about resilience for the entrepreneur. So we hope that you join us for that class, and all the sign up information is on Facebook, and it is free to attend.
And people ask me because I was a geology major in college, hence the map behind me, how I got to know the skills of running a business. And it was from a long format SBDC class like the one you guys are about to have. So, super valuable and really prepares you for entrepreneurship, even if you have never taken a business class. So, I recommend it. I'm the
Good.
president of the Hair Club for Men. I'm just kidding, but I'm also a client. Sorry, that was a joke of for a certain age group there, but we'll get back into all age groups here and talk about today's topic, which actually the whole month is going to be about social media ads and running them. And what we wanted to do is break it up into manageable sections. So today we're talking about return on investment. So a sort of like large picture view of social media ads. It's going to be we're going to do slides here, but I also have a couple of examples pulled up in case we get to that. But the main thing I want people to understand is that no matter what the platform is, there are basically 3 levels of advertisements that you're taking out, no matter, like I said, what it is. One is you're paying for eyeballs. You're just paying for people to see something. And another is you're paying for people to interact with it. Maybe it's watch a certain portion of a video, maybe it's someone to click on a link. And then in the third version, you're paying for a conversion. You're paying for someone to complete a form with their contact information. You're paying for someone to go to your website and make a purchase, that kind of thing. And so with those different levels, obviously, the more you're asking of people, the more you're going to pay. So, which makes kind of sense, right?
Mhm.
And people are like, well, how much more are you going to pay for these different levels? And I'll use the synonyms for these things like eyeballs or seeing, or so other words you might have heard for this are awareness or brand awareness or reach or impressions. And then another, I guess, acronym sometimes that is used in advertising is CPM, or cost per mil. That's a cost for 1,000 people to see something. And, like I said, different ad platforms use different words. And just to kind of touch on the difference between awareness and reach is typically awareness is how many different people can we, awareness is sometimes showing the same ad multiple times to the same people so they become aware of the brand. So it is kind of casting a wide net, but in some cases you'll repeat yourself a little bit. And reach is like showing it to the most amount of people possible. So like even within the term eyeballs or reach or whatever we're using, like it could be a little bit different, sort of nuance wise there. And in that case, you're typically the amount of money I said is pennies. So you're typically paying under $1 for this kind of thing. And I will, by the way, all of these I'm using personal examples. I'm not using client examples because I didn't get their permission. And I feel like that's kind of jerky to do that without their permission. So these are all Nicole centric. But Liz, if you have like either experiences or questions about this that are not Nicole centric, please let me know. But I'm going to show you an impression of, so little story here. My dog ran away. She's a Basset Hound mix. She's got a nose. She got a little spooked a couple of years ago and she ran. And so what did I do? Obviously, besides look for her and cry a lot and put up posters, I ran a Facebook ad because that's what I do. And so I used my business Facebook page. I probably shouldn't have done that, but like whatever. I was pretty desperate. And I just wanted the most amount of people possible within, a 10-mile radius of where this dog disappeared to see the ad. And so as you see here, I optimized for reach. And so I reached 6,350 people for $15. And so if we divide that up, that's less than a penny per person reached. Now, in the case of a missing dog, I don't want people to go buy anything or do anything, but I want the most people possible to see it. So I ran it for like a week and I just wanted everyone to see it. And obviously the viral nature of a disappearing dog, it got a lot of shares. As we see, it got 19 shares. So I wasn't paying for those shares, just people probably posted it on some like missing pet forums or whatever. And so 4 weeks go by and I kind of, I give away the rest of her dog food. I put away the dog crate and I think, oh, she's gone. At the end of the 5th week, I get a call. And somebody found her. And one person in the group recognized her from Facebook, the dog from Facebook. They brought her into the Humane Society. The Humane Society recognized her as the dog from Facebook. They were pretty sure it was because they scanned the chip information. I got my dog used on the internet. I got my dog used on the internet. Yeah.
Same.
And supposedly the information for the chip transferred over to me, but obviously they scanned it and it wasn't my name, but they recognized the dog. So even though the chip didn't match me, they saw the dog on Facebook and they knew it was me. And so they contacted me. So point being is that this little ad did its job, which is that I wanted the most amount of eyeballs I could get on it. She returned home safely. It wasn't just from the Facebook ad. Obviously, someone found her and then was like, oh, that's the dog, but it kind of helped the awareness.
Connected, right.
Exactly. So when I say that you're paying for, pennies, on the reach you typically are. Now, I got less than a penny on that because, like I said, it got shared a lot. Everyone wants to help with a missing dog. Maybe
Right.
if you have a product, maybe it's not going to get that kind of like viral let's help thing, but you typically are not paying a lot of money for reach because you're not getting anything specifically. And this is why anytime someone tells me, Liz, if I could ban something from Facebook, it would be the
Oh,
boost.
do tell.
The boost button.
Boost button.
All it does is it says how you're willing to pay for a little bit more eyeballs. You're willing to pay an extra $5, $10, $15 or whatever. And so what happens is I get clients who come in and say, well, I've been boosting some posts and like, look at this one. It got like 5,000 views. And I said, okay, like, did you get any customers from it? Did someone go over to your website? And then they're like, oh, well, no, I mean, but I got a bunch of people to see it. And my thing with reach or all that is, as long as that's what you're aiming for, it is totally worth spending that kind of money, right? So it is worth it if that is what you want to get. So that is the kind of cheapest way to run ads, is just general awareness. And like I said, sometimes people there's these other words used, and that's kind of what it means though, is just like awareness, visibility, eyeballs, whatever term we want to use for that.
But not retention. It's just
not necessarily
a passing impression. Right.
Yep.
Right.
And there is a way that in some ad platforms it says, do you want like to show this ad to people who are going to recognize your brand? And I'm not quite sure how they figure that out. Maybe they figure if I show it a few times, to the same person, maybe it's the kind of people who do more like, so let's say that I'm the kind of person who does a lot of searches on social media. Maybe it would be more likely to show me an ad because I'm the kind of person who like looks for brands on social media after I've seen an ad. So maybe they like have me pegged as the kind of person who recalls better than the average person. I don't know what goes into that, but there is a question sometimes of like, do you mind if we show this ad to the same person more than once in an effort to get them to recognize your brand? And if that's important to you, it's something that you can sort of tick off.
Right.
But they're pretty cheap. And the second level of ad, and this is kind of the most popular one, is we're asking for some kind of interaction. And the reason I phrase it like this instead of a conversion is like, we're not getting them to necessarily do something specific. So an interaction might be, we want them to click over to our website. Now, do they buy anything when they get there? Do they, do whatever? Do they sign up for our newsletter or whatever else we want them to do when they get to our website? Not necessarily, but we got them to click. Do we want them to watch 50% or more of a video? That's something we can also take out an ad for. Do we want them to engage somehow? So they like see this video. So for example, you're watching this right now and you click the like or the comment or the share button. That counts as an interaction, right? So the interaction I put as like, in terms of like, we're paying dollars instead of pennies because we're asking people to do more. And in a lot of cases, we're asking them to go from where they're at, which is on a social media website, whatever, killing time, having fun or whatever, and going to do this other thing. Or like, we're kind of stopping them from what they're doing and asking them, oh, hey, click over to our website, or, oh, watch this video a little longer than you were planning on it, maybe, or whatever. So we're going to pay a little bit more for that than we do for reach or eyeballs because we're asking them to do more. It's
that real one-on-one interaction that you're paying for. You're paying for their undivided attention, in theory, anyway.
Right. Or we're asking them to, even if they click the like button or the share, we're asking them to do something, not just look at something. And an example of this is, that is the conversion example. Hold on. Oh my God, I forgot to upload the impression example. But point being is, I know, I thought it was in here. It looks just like the other ones. Why is that? 1, 2, 3. Oh, slide 5 isn't in here. I'll add it in here while we're talking because I definitely downloaded it. But yeah, the reality is that, we're going to pay. And I think in my example, it was like $1.20 or something. And I'll grab that in a second. But Liz, if you can vamp while I pull this up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny what you talk about boosting posts because we used to do that and it didn't do anything. So we stopped doing it and we didn't really know why. It wasn't like part of it, to be frank, was that we don't have a credit card and it's really hard to boost posts without a credit card. And so we would have had to go reimburse an employee and we just stopped doing it, and we noticed no discernible difference in responses to our Facebook specifically. But what we have noticed is the interactions are increasing when we go live. That's free and more
Impactful.
right. That's the
Yeah.
word for us. Yes.
Well, and the thing with Boost is they make this big blue button. It's super clickable. It's
Yes,
easy.
it's
It's on
very
one
tempting.
screen.
It's very tempting.
It's
Yes.
very tempting. And then you get that, like, I don't know, if you're the kind of person who enjoys a little bit of vanity, and I mean, who doesn't? You're like, oh, 5,000 people saw this and I only paid $5 for it, which is fine. All right. Thanks for vamping, Liz. All right. So
No
here,
problem.
here is an interaction example. So during the pandemic, I had a co-working space, and I don't know if you've had an empty building in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're watching this, you have. But a big part of my revenue, obviously, was people renting office space, but they weren't because we were in a pandemic. So I did what most people did, and I pivoted to a virtual membership. But I had to make people aware that we had the virtual membership. And so what I wanted people to do was click on a learn more button where I could send them to a page on my website where we talked about the virtual membership. And so I tried a few different, as you see here, I did a few different audiences. That's why it says winning ad set. If you're starting to run ads, it's nice to kind of see what's your least expensive audience. And as you see, one of them is way less expensive, or it's like 55 cents for an interaction. And one of my other audiences was $4.18. So if I would have just done one audience, I wouldn't have necessarily known that version C did the best. It was the cheapest. That's why it has a little green check mark next to it. It's kind of little, but if we do the average of the amount of people, I paid 82 cents for people to click over from this ad set. And as you see, I think I spent like $100 or something. I actually doesn't say that in here, does it? So whatever. I basically paid 82 cents times 100 to get 100 people to go to my website. And if some of those people sign up for the virtual membership, then it was a worthwhile thing to do. And a couple of them did.
Mm-hmm.
So the virtual membership is $19 a month. We still have it going, and we still have people in it, which is nice. So if people found it valuable to kind of have a bit of an online community during this time and then also afterwards. So, if you think about it, I spent $100, and even if I got 2 members and they stayed each for a couple of months, it more than paid for the ad.
Right.
But I was clear that I really wanted to get people to go look at the page and like really think about it. And I knew if they saw kind of the whole offer on a whole web page, that it would be easier for them to understand what it was. That explaining a virtual membership in this much space on a Facebook page was not going to do it for me. So
right. So you hung them the carrot out so that and the carrot was going to the website where then they could really understand all the pros and cons, the full costs, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And then if it didn't work, I could take out an ad to get them to come back to my website using a remarketing pixel, which we'll get into later this month as a sort of fun ad feature that big companies use, but why not us little ones, right?
Why not? And that's the whole thing with this is that you don't have to be a big company to avail yourselves of these tools. You can do it as a small mom and pop. Social media is how people interact these days with their clients and customers. And if you are not doing it, that's what this whole month is about. Well, that's what the whole series has been about, but specifically this month. So
yeah, and I think people hesitate to run ads because they think it's annoying to people or they don't want to spend the money. Like, I think both of those things, valid points. But if I go in knowing, okay, I'm launching this new thing, if someone sticks around for a few months, and most people have stuck around for over a year for $19 a month, I will spend $100 to get 2 customers, because that will be a good return on investment, which is, as we know, today's topic is like, what are we getting from these ads? Because the reason people don't want to run them is they're like, okay, I clicked boost post
and nothing happened. Right.
And we understand the frustration because people don't understand that there are these different kinds of ads we can run. And it's across all. This isn't just a Facebook or Instagram thing. This is a Google/YouTube thing. This is a Pinterest thing. This is a LinkedIn thing. This is, like every social media place has a way for you to run ads. And trust me, they make it very easy for you to set up your ad account and spend the money. They go out of their way to make it so easy. People are like, oh, this, yeah, you're spending money. Of course they're going to make it easy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. And then, the third and kind of most costly thing is a conversion. And so in this case, we're paying for someone to convert. So did they go to your online store and make a purchase? Did they subscribe to your, did they fill out a form? Did they subscribe to did they finish? Not only did you get them to consider it or interact with it, but you got them to actually finish. And in that case, like, these ads tend to be more expensive because they're a little bit more of a guarantee. I mean, as much of a guarantee as like any of us can have on the internet, right?
Right. Right.
But the example for this is that, so I'm looking, and if you're in Canton, New York, and you have a leasable space, please let me know. I've looked at 7 spaces, and it just I'm looking for the right space. So we wanted to see how many people were interested in an office space in Canton, New York. And so we took out this ad, and when they clicked on learn more, it brought them to a form that was still on Facebook, and it asked them their name and it asked them their email address. This is what's called a lead generation ad. And again, we'll get into more of like how these are set up and examples in our upcoming videos this month. But just this idea that they're on Facebook, they see a form, are you interested in the office space in Canton? Name, email, done. And they haven't left Facebook. So that's what this, and what Facebook does is it stores the form on your site. And you can do lead generation, by the way, on like LinkedIn and other places too.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran, of course, in my usual two audiences. And so I got 5 people from, audience 1 with their email address and 8 people from audience 2. And I paid on average $11.25 for each of these emails. So I spent about $150 to get these, whatever, what's 8 plus 5? I can do simple math, but I apparently can't do it right now. So, and you might be looking and say, oh my, you paid $11.25 for an email address. But if someone's watching this and they're in like the insurance world, or you're in like, I don't know, any kind of medical field or whatever, a lot of these people buy leads off of random websites. And I remember the first person who ever sold me insurance 15 years ago when I started my business. I had to buy my own health insurance. And I asked him, I said, how did you get my name? And he says, oh, I bought it off of a website. And I said, well, if you don't mind, how much did you pay for it? He's like, $25. So he paid $25 just for my name and my contact info.
15 years ago.
15 years ago. And so in my mind, I know that my co-working space membership, the average amount people pay is $199. The average amount of time people stay, well, it's hard to say because I think my vacation co-working space in Maine kind of skews it because there's a bunch of 1-month people there. And then I had people who've been with us for years, like literally years. So I would say, like, even if we say $199 on the average of 6 months, if even one of these people turned into an actual customer, I more than paid for my thing. Right. So that's why with lead generation ads, you don't see them for like coffee shops or sandwich places, right? Because it doesn't make sense for you to collect email addresses for, 11, whatever. In my case, it was $11. I'm in a few of these groups on Facebook of people who run ads. And whenever someone's like, I'm getting $5 leads, and people are like, holy cow, that's amazing. Like, yeah, that's whenever someone gets under $5 for a lead, like everyone just kind of loses their marbles because they're just like so excited about it because you're getting an email address from this. But also
a relevant email address. That's it's not just some random email address from somebody who filled out a form at a home show that's been resold 20 times. It's a relevant email address of someone who has expressed explicit interest in what you're trying to sell or do or provide.
Right. And so for this ad set, I just took it out to business owners within a 10-mile radius of Canton, New York. It was a very small group. And that's why, like, you might also say like, oh, you only got like 14 email addresses or 13 email addresses. But the thing was, like, it was a pretty small group, and I didn't run the ad a really long time because, contrary, I know I give off really bougie vibes, but like, I don't have infinite money to like run this ad forever. So, I just wanted to get a quick, are people interested in this? And do I have some leads if I were to open this space?
A snapshot of information. That's what you were interested in. of that place and time. And
Mm-hmm.
let's be honest. I mean, how many independent businesses can there be outside of Canton? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking about a major metropolitan area. So when you're thinking about this, really, do the math and know not only what your potential clients are, and you can look that up on census. You can find out how many. There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of ways to do that information, to
Yeah,
get
and
that information.
right. And when I took out this ad, as I was setting it up and as I was saying, like, okay, only show this to people who are small business, identify as small business owners or business owners within a 5 or 10, I forget what the actual mile radius was of Canton, New York. I think it said like 2,400. It was just some really small number like that. But it was the right 2,000. And that's
Hmm.
why, like I said, it didn't show my ad a ton because the group was so small. And all these social media sites, they can't just show you a bunch of ads. Although, if you'll notice, Facebook's gotten a little bit more thirsty lately and they're definitely showing a lot more ads. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have noticed that. And weird ads, like ads that have nothing to do with me or my interests or anything like that.
I
Yeah,
think they're trying to make more money. And I think they've had like a drop, they've had users kind of drop off a bit. And so they're trying to make more revenue off the people who are looking at, so they're showing more ads. But the reality is, even if they're showing more ads, which they are, there's a finite amount of ad space. And all of this, by the way, is like bid based, right? So if Liz is willing to pay $5 for a click and I'm only willing to pay two and we're going after the same audience, Facebook is going to show Liz's ad because they
absolutely.
can make more money. And it
Yep.
like so like I said, so we're just thinking about this ROI today because it's important going into the other more specific conversations we're going to have, because if you know what you want to get out of it going into it, you're going to be a lot happier with whatever ads that you run generally. So that's why I said in the sort of reach, you're paying pennies, in the interaction, you're paying dollars, and the conversion, I just put dollars plus because
Right.
you're going to be, it's going to be, in some ad sets I run, it's $25 a lead or something like that. But still, if it's specific enough and like how many people you have to talk to get a customer, like you can do the math on your end. And what I thought we would do, Liz, you want to do some like fun math together?
Oh, do I need my calculator
No,
or
no,
oh okay.
no. I already did the math so that we
Oh
can
okay.
relax because I'm really bad at simple math on the spot. I don't know why. So let's say, and again, you can do this math for yourself. Please appreciate the emojis for how I feel about how the numbers come out. But in this specific example, let's say like my co-working space, my average customer value is $199. It's $200. We'll call it round numbers. And let's just say that I have a conversion rate of 5%. Now, you might ask yourself, how do I even know my own conversion rate? Well, I have an online form. So I see how many people look at the form versus how many people fill out the form.
Right.
And so my form software actually gives me a conversion rate. But you might just have an idea anecdotally. You might just look through your email, like look through your email of people you've been talking to and then how many people bought and say, okay, I talked to, 100 people last month, 10 people bought, 10%, whether it's and by the way, all website software typically has, especially if it's an e-commerce software, has conversion like rate built in. Your Wix site, your Squarespace site, or whatever will show how many people got to your shopping cart versus how many people bought, and then there's a conversion rate there. So I'm not just pulling this number. I mean, in this case, I'm pulling this number just for us to do simple math together, but you can actually find out this number for yourself. And in my example, I paid what, $11.80 or something. I just called it 15. Again, I'm just making us round numbers here so that we're not in the weeds here. So if I paid $15 to get the email addresses of 100 people, 5 of them would turn into customers. And I could say that they're worth, let's just say they stay a month. They're worth about 1,000. So $200 times 5, if they only stayed for a month, would be worth $1,000. Now, in my case, do most people stay more than a month? Yes, but let's pretend they just stay for a month. So if I pay $1,500 to get $1,000 worth of customers, that is what we call bad math, right? Hence the throw up emoji. It's very scientific here, guys. So you might look at this and think, okay, well, how do we fix this throw uppy math? We have some options. First of all, we can increase the average amount the customer is worth to us, so we can, work on customer retention.
Mhm.
We can work on, offering additional value to our customers, whatever that. So we can increase the average order value so they stick around. We can increase the conversion rate. So we can say, okay, we're talking to less people for them to be able to become customers, or we can lower our cost per lead. So something that I didn't say with the example ad that I ran is that in all of these platforms, not only can you set a total budget for your whole campaign, but you can set a upper limit for an interaction. So let's say that
Oh,
I could say, all right, I'm running a running a lead generation ad. I want a form that people fill out so I get their email addresses, but I'm only willing to pay $10 for an email address. I could have said that as I was setting up the ad. And the worst case scenario in that is that the ad just doesn't show. The ad just won't run because
right.
Facebook's like, sorry, you're not spending enough money. Or, and I'm, by the way, I keep saying Facebook, but like, and I'm using just Facebook but all of these ad platforms, once you are comfortable in one, you open up the others and they look very similar. Like they're even using some of the same words. A lot of them are copying the dashboards. It's
Yep.
like, you know what I mean? So if you're comfortable in one format, you'll be comfortable in other ones. So, if I wanted to, I could have said, you know what, I'm only willing to pay $10. In that way, the math would have at least equaled out. So, if we so let's say I change the math. So this is the changed math version here. So let's say the average customer value is now, instead of worth $200, they're worth $400, right? And I've kept the same conversion rate and I've kept the same cost per lead. I'm paying $15. I'm converting at 5%, but instead of being worth $200, they're worth 400. Now suddenly the math is mathing better, right?
Right.
I'm making $2,000, or sorry, hold on. I'm spending $1,500 to make $2,000. I mixed that up when I was writing it out, but I
Yes.
think you see that apparent. Whatever Erica had this week, I had last week, so I blame. I wasn't mostly coherent, but yeah, but you see how that's going, right?
Right. And
So
we're all virtual, so we're not infecting each other.
I did not infect Erica, although like I somehow felt responsible when she said, "Oh, I have this." I
I
was
know.
like, "Oh no, that was me last week." I felt so bad, but you see what happens, right? When you judge the numbers a little bit, and what happens to me is like people will hire me to run ads for them, but there's these fundamental things on their website that if they don't fix, I could be the best marketer on earth.
It's not
If
going to
I'm sending
matter.
them to the website, yeah, if they don't convert, like which is why like sometimes I get a little nosy about the website. It's not necessarily that I want you to dump your web person, like keep your web person, but like let's like try some things to make sure that the money that you're spending on ads actually convert at the level that you want to.
Right. Well, you have to correlate your intention and your actions.
Yes.
And if you're not, like I always say, it's like a pair of Payless shoes, right? With the elastic at the back. If you get too far out of sync, it's going to snap your ankles. So, you want to take one step and one step. It's true.
Yeah.
So you
I
want to make
like
sure
that.
that
And we're heading into the slip-on sneaker season, so I appreciate this analogy now more than ever.
well, as a person who's bought cheap shoes her entire life, well, it resonates with me. So you think about that, trying to take the hobble step, but in
Yeah.
but in these instances, you want to take a hobble step. You don't want to be striding off in one direction and then find out, So you want your two your actions and your goals and the results all right there tightly tied to each other.
And what you'll notice with the ad sets examples that I showed earlier, and in addition to trying to get whatever we want to get, whether it's eyeballs or whatever, minus the dog example, my goal is to learn something. Every time I run an ad, I want to learn, is this audience cheaper? I ran a LinkedIn ad for a client and it was like a study tutoring service. And like I did one stock image of a little boy like writing and one of a little girl. The little girl converted twice as well, which we can think things about. But at the same time, like I know, okay, if I'm going to run future ads for them, this picture is going to convert twice as well. Good
Right.
to know.
Right.
So over time, as you're running ads, not only are you trying to get more customers or more eyeballs on your product or whatever, but you're also iterating toward better and cheaper ads all the time because you're constantly learning. Which is what, when people are like, oh, like why do you charge what you charge to run ads? It's because I'm setting all this up and I'm also like running experiments on people's behalf so that their ads can get cheaper over time. And then and then I did another example here of like, let's say, you know, my average customer value back down to $200, still paying $15 lead, but I double the conversion rate. I get that same good result of spending $1,500 to get 2,000. Like, same idea, because, you know, we're paying $15 for 100 people, and actually 10 of them are going to be customers. Oh my God, how much on cold drugs was I when I made these slides? Anyway, I think we get the simple math
We
here.
do.
We won't dwell on
We do.
my imperfect execution there,
That's
but you see
no,
what I
we
mean,
get it.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is
Yeah.
why like improving your website is important, which is why like, you know, having a marketing strategy is important, so that you're not just paying, that people are also seeing stuff kind of organically. I get that it takes your time to do the marketing, but ads I think are a nice like complement to what you might be doing. And so I have some little takeaways here, and probably Liz has some too, but so basically the more you ask of people, the more you're going to pay, right? So if you're asking people to, if you're saying I'm willing to pay for someone to make a purchase in my online shopping cart, you're going to pay more for that than you will for, you know, 1,000 more impressions or something like that. And so what we want to do over time is optimize our what's called our creative. And our creative is like just the visual thing we're running the ad on. It could be a picture, it could be a video, it could be just some text. I mean, you know, it just, you know, we want to optimize that. We want to look at our audiences. So as you saw with my co-working space example, some people are just less expensive to advertise to by a lot. And it's good for you to learn that initially than to pay through your nose. And then sometimes it's a little bit about timing too, because, you know, I call it the Q4 WTF. Like in Q4, ads just start getting really expensive because
the
it's
holidays.
the holidays and suddenly everybody wants to advertise their stuff, right? And so what happens is it's a bid-based thing. And if we're all bidding on a fewer amount of spaces, we're going to pay more.
You got it.
So sometimes it's a timing thing as well. And, you know, depending on your industry, maybe you're in a seasonal industry where you get busier in the summer, or people are starting to plan their summer vacations maybe now. So maybe you want to advertise now versus in the middle of your season when you're already busy. Like I just saying, experiment with timing as well too, because you could run the same ad set, you know, 2 separate months and get completely different results. Like, listen, what I want to tell people is if I knew exactly what to tell you, I would tell it to you, charge you a gazillion dollars for it, and just lie on a beach somewhere.
Right.
But everybody is different. I know people don't like to hear that though, you know, but you're going to run ads, and after honestly like 5 or 6 iterations, you're going to have a really good idea of like, okay, what kind of creative works, what kind of audience works, like is there certain times of the day where people seem more active, like whatever. You can experiment with that. And I will say too, something, if you run a restaurant or some other kind of business where like certain times of the day you want people to see your ad, all of these platforms now have the ability for your ad set to turn on and off during different times of the day. So if you are serving dinner and want people to come in for happy hour, you could run that ad set to people within a 5-mile radius or 3-mile whatever, between 3 and 5 p.m. and on the days that you're open or something like that. You can set that up. That is a possibility.
And I would encourage people to really think about that, because there's nothing more frustrating as a consumer than seeing an event that there was one on Friday afternoon that I would have liked to have known about, and I saw it on Saturday, like at noontime.
Yeah.
Like really? This and I'm sure I wasn't the only one.
You know, it's funny. I don't know if you saw while I was sharing the screen on Facebook, like all my notifications coming in. Like and people say like, oh, well, you're on Facebook. Like, did you see it? And I'm like, no, because I manage like, I don't know, I think I'm an admin of like 85 Facebook pages back here. And like my notifications are constant. And so I might not see it unless it's been advertised for a while, or unless I have a couple of friends talking about it or something. So just even your friends who are online are just bombarded sometimes by information, and sometimes an ad to them might make sure that they actually see it.
You know, the other thing I was going to say, Nicole, that I think is one of the key things that you said is about when you're putting the ads out, mix them up. Don't show the same image. Don't use the same wording. And people don't want to, if people they do remember, maybe not so much on a conscious level, but if they see that same image of your, you know, pet grooming service or your bakery, oh yeah, that's those donuts again, you know, but I bet you sell more things than donuts. So
Mhm.
really mix it up and study to see what works. And
Right.
your point about the LinkedIn ad with the little boy versus the little girl, representation matters.
Mhm.
So that's a really important thing to think about. You may not want to think about it. You may not agree with it. Doesn't matter. The marketplace doesn't care if you agree or not. They want you to react to what is out there, and that's that representation matters. So
Mhm. Yeah, people wanna see themselves, and let's face it, if your bakery does donuts, honestly, I hope I don't get people mad here. I don't really like donuts. Like, donuts aren't my thing, but if I know that you make baguettes or croissants, I'm there. I'm a more savory snacker. So, like, so I might see your donut ad and have absolutely no feeling toward it, but I need to see what your other product line is. So,
right, and
so it's good. Yeah, it's good to vary it that way too.
and
I
what
might be
goes
in your
with a donut?
audience.
Right, and what
Yeah.
goes with a donut? Do you have just plain coffee, or do you offer cappuccinos and lattes, and
Mhm.
do you make your own flavored caramel flavor
Ooh,
and that kind of thing? Yeah,
yum.
right.
That sounds awesome.
Well, so think about what makes your product, service, or business unique.
Mhm.
And there's more than one thing, I
There sure
guarantee
is.
that. So look at all the different aspects. And if you're not sure of, well, I don't really know, because sometimes when things are this close, it's sometimes really hard to see.
Mhm.
Call the SBDC. Um, Call your local SBDC. We're happy to help. Talk to your loyal customers. Your loyal customers are a really good indicator of what appeals to other people as well. So
Mhm.
talk to your customers, talk to your neighbors, um, and see what they think. We talked about focus groups in February, I think.
Mhm.
And yes, so if you want to learn about focus groups officially, you can go check out the Watertown Oswego YouTube page, SBDC YouTube page.
Yep.
But just to repeat something from that really stuck with me is that it's only a focus group if you officially and scientifically think about it. It's different than asking your neighbor, "Hey, did you see my ad? What do you think?" Or your loyal customer. So,
Mhm.
all the opinions are valid, but don't think that one is scientifically derived when it isn't. Don't delude yourself.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing with ads. I like how democratic they are because sometimes I'll have clients who say, "Well, nobody's going to like that or whatever." And I say, "Well, why don't we just take out an ad and see? Like, why don't we experiment, cuz we could sit around a table and debate this all we want, or we can actually spend $100 and actually know. Or
Right.
even $50 in some cases." And actually that brings me to my second point, which is that, like, there are some, it seems like Google slash YouTube, they're the same. They're Google AdWords. It's the same whatever interface to take out ads on both of those. And LinkedIn, they seem to require higher ad spends than the other
Hmm.
platforms because sometimes, like, I was doing an experiment on a couple of things, and so I like did $100 and didn't show the ad. And then I went to 150, didn't show the ad, and then I went to two. You know what I mean? Like, in this way that I feel like even on Facebook, I can, or on Facebook or Pinterest for that matter, or Twitter, I can get results for $100 or less. But in some of these, they are a little bit more expensive to run to get them to actually show up. So I just want to kind of warn people about that. LinkedIn, like I said, LinkedIn can be expensive, but then it's so funny. What I love about LinkedIn is they don't tell you the names, but they'll be like, the executive director of the Shipley Center looked at and you're like, yeah, I know who that, like,
I, I,
it's just so
I
funny
can
because
figure
if
that out.
exactly, so they'll like give you the title of the person where they work, and so you can actually, like, sort of, if you didn't mind, like, googling around, you can sort of figure out who these people are. But yeah, it gives you really specific information. We can target by job title, so there's legitimate reasons to use these platforms. I just want to warn people they might be a little bit more expensive than they're expecting. I know. And that's why you get, like, do you get those cards in the mail that it's like $150 off Google ads if you when you spend 150, or is that just
Yes.
me? Yeah.
No, we get, yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
a reason. It's because you actually need to spend
Because you actually
150.
didn't spend that much.
Yeah.
For your business, it might be the right equation, but
Yeah.
it might not. And same thing with LinkedIn. Which, full disclosure, the SBDC at Watertown and Oswego, we have not done a lot with that. We're
Mhm.
looking into it. But that's we're dipping a toe because if I was a white collar professional looking for a job, then I want to make sure my LinkedIn stuff is
Mhm.
all set. But so you have to really understand where your potential audience lies and what their social media habits are.
Right. And something I noticed as a kind of hole in the marketplace is that, like, So YouTube video, you can take out an ad. I'm sure if you've watched a YouTube video, you have maybe skipped an ad or you've seen
Skip.
a very, so there's
Yeah.
also these very short ads you can't skip called bumper ads. They're like 8 or 6 seconds or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's something like that. And then there's these longer ads which are skippable. And a lot of small businesses don't take out YouTube ads because they don't want to make videos. So what's funny is if you want to like target a small area, if you're willing to make a commercial for YouTube, and actually there's some forms of YouTube ads where like you don't pay unless people watch a certain percentage of it. So if someone clicks skip,
Oh,
you actually don't pay for that. So just
interesting.
yeah, if you're willing to kind of put the effort into a video, sometimes that can be cheaper. So like and that's why like eyeballs are cheap,
Right. Right.
because that's why like ads that go out to a large group of people, it look like a bargain. Oh wow, I'm only paying like $10 for 10,000 people to see this, but like are they the right people is what you kind of want to
Right. And
generally.
think about like, say you only pay $3,000 for a sign in front of your business and 12,000 people drive by it every day.
Mhm.
Yes, the eyeballs are cheap, but are those eyeballs looking at the road? Are they looking at their phone? Do they even have any cognition that they
Mhm.
just drove past your shop on Main Street? So
Right.
think of it that way. It's
Yeah. And there, ironically, there's some people who become a member of our co-working space, so they can get a sign because we have
oh,
sign space for our full members. So for that visibility. But yeah, so like you could take ROI and kind of use it not just for social media ads, but for everything. And then, if you are running a test, I will say it's really tempting to try to test more, that you want to learn all the information possible. You're like, oh, I'm gonna experiment on the image, and then I'm gonna change the copy. But the problem is when you get results, like you don't know what thing got
right.
you the results. So only change, just like a science experiment, you only do one variable at a time.
Right. And
So that
like
you
your inventory. If you
yeah.
don't inventory, if you just sell a bunch of stuff and you don't know what you sold, it's not very helpful to you. That's why you do
Yeah.
inventory. It's the same concept.
Yep, absolutely. And obviously your costs matter, right? And that's why a lot of people avoid running these kind of ads. It feels like a bit of a learning curve and it feels like expensive, but as you start understanding like, okay, what's the average value of my customer, like how do they, when they get to my website, how many of them become buyers, or how many people come in from that kind of thing. The more you know about that stuff, the easier this math is to do, because the actual math is kind of simple, right?
Right.
But knowing your numbers can sometimes not be simple. And obviously on the internet you can pull these numbers from your website or something like that. But
Mhm.
if you have an in-person component, maybe it is talking to some people and sort of figuring out like, okay, how did they hear about you, why did they come in, like you said in the in the feedback episode that we did a couple of months ago.
Mhm.
Which is, by the way, everything is archived wherever you're
Archived.
watching this
That's
now, so
right.
you can go back and watch any past broadcast. But that's kind of the main sort of takeaways with the ads. It's like, I guess if I was gonna, you know, say what I hope people get out of this broadcast, which maybe I should have said at the beginning, is like, I don't want people to be intimidated by running ads, because if you know what you're going to get out of it and you understand that it's a process and it's going to take you through the steps, and we're going to practice doing that. I ran a sample ad for you guys, and I took
Yes.
video of myself setting it up and all of that, so people could like watch that whole process.
Mhm.
And we'll look at some stats together and things like that over the course of this month to get people comfortable with it. I
We're
just
the
don't want
guinea
people,
pigs.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
We're
like,
oh, it was a great idea.
yeah, well, it's like I just don't want people to feel uncomfortable with this, because
Right.
big companies are using this, and what doesn't make me mad is when a little company targets me. I love it. I'm like, all right, I'm being like targeted by this like awesome local clothing store or whatever. Like that's great. It annoys me when large companies do it, but when small companies do it, I'm like, yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
genuinely excited to learn about them. So I think
Yes.
your customers are that way too. They're on social media, and there's some stat which I can't remember right now, but there's a certain amount of people that go on social media looking for new products, new services, new businesses. They
Yes.
want to be made aware of things. Like you, Liz, you're like, oh, I found out about this event on Saturday morning. Like I wish
I
you
wish
know,
I'd known. Right.
right. So part of the reason we're on social media, in addition to kind of stalk people and see what they're up to, is also to learn about new things that we could be interested in.
Well,
Um,
and we've said it before on here.
mhm.
Young people use Facebook as their yellow pages. How
Yeah.
can I get pizza in Pulaski at 8 p.m. on Friday night?
Mhm.
They may not be on there checking stuff unless their mother calls them up and tells them, "It's your birthday. Would you please thank your aunts and your grandmothers?" That's not a personal example. Oh, wait,
Mhm.
yes, it is. But but, think about how people use, even if they're not on there interacting and liking, and they are looking at the business information, and
Mhm.
you kinda have to be there right now. Even we all know Facebook is losing some, of the cachet that it once had for some good, some not so good reasons. We won't get into those, but you have to be there. You have to
Well,
have at least your listing there and
yeah.
your hours. And this is
Well,
we're
and
figuring out
if
how you can do more.
sure, and I'm one of those people, if you're morally opposed to Facebook, you're probably watching us on YouTube then. But,
Right.
but there's other platforms that cater to specific groups of people that you can take out ads on, that you can have a presence on, and, they all have ads: TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest,
They
Twitter,
right.
LinkedIn, Google, YouTube. Like they all have ads. And like I said, once you get comfortable in one format, you can take that knowledge and apply it to other formats as
Exactly.
well. Because like I
Exactly.
said, so don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid
Right.
to spend a little money. I'm not
Right.
saying you have to spend a lot, but spend
And
a
we're
little
not
money.
spending a lot. The
No,
experiment that Nicole's doing this month, we are not spending a lot of money.
nope.
So don't think that we are. And really, when you're thinking about social media, I kind of liken it to TV. Like Facebook, that's broadcast TV. Anybody can get that with a cable subscription or an antenna. But some of the streaming services, they're much more specialized. And so the same thing with the different, if I want to market to 75-year-olds, I'm not putting anything on YouTube. I'm just not. If I'm selling supplemental social security or supplemental Medicare, I'm not going on TikTok. Um, and that's okay.
But are you going to try it out and see? Because sometimes too, like you could run a little test ad, you could see how it does, and then you could definitely say like, no, this is not
It's
what's
not for
what.
me. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I follow some really awesome like octogenarians on TikTok. That's why I'm like I'm like, you are the woman I want to be when I'm 80 because you're awesome. But yeah. So anyway, that's all I got. Do you got anything else to close out, Liz? Before
No,
we all
no,
right?
just join us for the rest of April while we keep taking what's that phrase? A deeper dive into social media, straight into the deep end, folks. That's how we do. And please consider liking us on Facebook and
Mhm.
watching us on YouTube. If you go back to the marketing series, there is and I know like we put it on, right? And I'm not trying to be, do a humble brag here, but you can find thousands and thousands of dollars worth of solid marketing advice that applies to small businesses of all
Mhm.
stripes on there. And so watch some stuff. Let us know what you think. And if you have suggestions for other topics or questions you want answered, shoot us an email, sbdc@sunyjefferson.edu. We monitor that email daily, hourly, frankly, and we will get back to you and we'll use your idea on the show.
Yeah, and you can also leave a comment too if you're less shy. But we're going to put the SBDC's email on the screen if you want to
Yeah.
schedule an appointment or give some feedback on Marketing Monday. Thanks so much, Liz, for being
Uh,
my co-host. And
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for all the awesome information, and we'll see you next Monday.
all right, see you next Monday. Take
Okay,
care,
take
all.
care. Bye.